Hey CF students, my name is Caleb Gates, and I'm so excited to teach you guys today about everyday theology week 2. Now, last week, Keegan did a great job of explaining a couple of key things that we wanted to talk about through this everyday theology study. But this week, I wanted to start off with board games. I love board games. Board games are the most fun to play. Me and my wife play board games all of the time. And here's the thing about board games. Unless you have a rule book and an actual list of rules for the board game, it gets so chaotic and crazy because everybody's playing by their own rules. I know that a couple of months ago, we were talking about Uno and how we don't know if you can stack plus fours or if you can't, but officially you're not supposed to, but that's not the way that we usually play. We play however we grew up. But the best thing about board games is that they give us the clear instructions of how to play the game, how the game starts, what the rules are, what the goal is, and how it ends. And here's the thing about these games. They actually give you a view of how the game is intended to play. And so what I wanted to encourage you with today is that every single one of us has what we call a worldview. Okay? The worldview is something that we look at the world through a specific lens. Now, every single one of us could play according to our own rules, but as I said before about board games, it would throw us into a little bit of a chaotic place. And so we actually believe that there is a rule book, that there is a way that the game starts, that the way that the life starts for you, that there's a way that the game should be played, that life should be followed. We believe in all of these things that God actually has for you. And believe it or not, your worldview is being shaped every single day. Recently, Nicole and I found out that we're going to have a baby, and we're going to be having a baby girl pretty soon, and I'm extremely excited about that. But the coolest and the weirdest thing about it is that Siri's pretty excited about it too. I went on Instagram, and immediately all I started seeing was baby this, baby that, baby crib this, like all these crazy things, and I was like, when did I start talking to you about any of these things, Instagram? But they started giving me ads based on the conversations that I was having. And so what I wanted to prove to you is that if you go on Instagram and you check out any of the conversations that you had recently, they're going to be targeted ads that are specifically for you. And so if you don't realize it, the world is actually shaping your worldview as we speak, whether you realize it physically or not. There's people that are trying to shape your viewpoints. They're trying to shape your thinking. They're trying to shape the way that you live life, whether you realize it or not. And so what I wanted to talk to us about today is the fact that every student should adopt a Christian worldview because it best answers 3 questions. What are these questions? We'll get into it in just a second. But make sure that you guys are taking notes, because here at CF Students, we're note takers, all right? So the very first question that I believe it answers is, where did we come from? Where did we come from? And last week, Keegan kind of talked about this example of a watch. So I kind of want to make sure that we talk about it a little bit because I think it's very helpful. But let's just say that you were going through the beach and you were looking for a Rolex, right? You're just going through the sand, going through every single piece of nook and cranny that you can go through, but eventually you're going to need a metal detector, something that'll actually help you find what you're looking for deep in the sand. Now, let's just say someone comes over to you and you guys have this little conversation and you guys are trying to find out where this Rolex is, and you just kind of like are going through it, and then you eventually find the Rolex. You're not going to say, you know what? This Rolex must have just come into existence. This Rolex, it just, poof, it's there. No, that actually wouldn't make very much sense for us to believe or to think, because the honest truth is that most likely someone might have dropped the Rolex. Someone may have even, left it there on purpose so that you can find it. Someone had to have created that Rolex, and someone must have lost that Rolex, which logically would have led to you finding it on the beach that day. And so, in explanation to the light of those facts, according to the Christian worldview, the universe came into existence because God spoke it into existence. In John chapter 1 through 3, you see, in the beginning, the Word already existed. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He existed in the beginning with God. God created everything through him. Nothing was created except through him. Everything that was created through God, which means that without God, you will have to believe everything came from him, or without God, you have to believe that nothing happened. And the truth is that it's really hard to believe that absolutely nothing can create everything. And in the same way that everything came from nothing. And we just have to understand that that's pretty close to impossible. Without God, you have to admit that everything that we see and experience today is due to an accident on a cosmic scale. That is the same thing as believing that the watch that we found on the beach just popped into existence. And I bet you're asking yourself the question, why does this matter? Why are we talking about this? It's because if there is no God to explain where we came from, then we cannot assume that any meaning beyond what we subjectively create for ourselves actually matters. Let me explain. If God did not create the universe, then nothing did, then there is no ultimate reason for our existence. Okay? We are just animals. We just do what happens naturally to us. We do what makes us happy, what makes us pleasured, what makes us feel like some sort of existence matters. We are in survival mode only. However, if God did create the universe, then we do have a reason for existing, and we have a hope, and we have a way to look forward to the restoration of the world. Now, the second thing that I think the Christian worldview answers, the second question is what's our purpose? So go ahead and write down, what's our purpose? Let's just say that you're just a product of a random blind biological evolution, and so you need to go ask biology. What does it say? It would say that your purpose is simple. Keep making more humans so the species doesn't die off. Protect yourself at all costs, only to have relationships that benefit you, and be entertained every once in a while. Anything beyond that is just for fun and is completely and absolutely unnecessary. Now, what if Christianity is true? And you were actually made by God. This is what it says in Genesis 1:27. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. If this is true, then we have to go to God to find our purpose. God tells us that not only are we made in his image, but we're made to glorify him. How do we glorify him? By worshiping him and who he is. The Bible says that God is holy and powerful, merciful, full of grace, full of love, just and faithful. And that's only a few. We worship him because he's worthy of it. We were also made to enjoy God and our existence within the boundaries of following his commands. Let me ask you this. Do you ever feel like your life is meaningless? Do you ever feel like you have the sense that there's something beyond this universe? Well, if you're asking those questions, it's true. Jesus is actually the thing that gives you meaning and is actually the thing that exists beyond what this universe has to offer. Jesus is actually the thing that can completely fulfill you. And you're actually made for a full life. You're actually made for an everlasting life. You're actually made for something more than what this life can have to offer you. But the only way that you can experience that is through a relationship with Jesus. You were made to love and obey God. And when you love and obey God, you will experience the full and fulfilling life that he promises. So what then? Our lives are more than just surviving, making money, and being happy and eventually dying. I would say that our purpose is even more than just trying to make the world a better place. Our purpose is to reflect the image of God in creation and glorify God. And when we glorify God by worshiping him and following his commands, you will experience in full your purpose. Until then, you will be restless. St. Augustine, over 1,500 years ago, said this: "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it rests in you." Which I think can lead us to the third and final question that I want to look at today. And if you're taking notes, I want you to go ahead and write this down. What should we do? What should we do? And I think there's a great answer for it. Now, if you were back in the seafaring days, you would know that every person had a compass and for a specific purpose. If you have a compass, this compass points you to north, right? Or due north. And no matter what compass you have, every single time you will be pointed to north. Here's why. The way that it works is that there is a grounding point, a magnetic field that actually makes the compass point towards north. Now, if you are wondering why this actually matters, it's because we're talking about a moral compass. Every single one of us has some sort of moral compass where we actually have something that points us towards a due north. Now, in some way, every single worldview operates like a compass when it comes to what you should and shouldn't do. Every worldview has a perspective on what is right and wrong. In order for a worldview to be valid in its moral compass, it has to be grounded in something, just like a normal compass has to be grounded to the earth. Here's the thing about atheism. It has no grounding. It is that it has to copy from the Christian worldview in order to make any sense for why it says you should be a nice person or even a good person. Without God, there's actually no real reason why stealing, killing, hurting people, and all the worst things would be wrong. You're actually just behaving how a normal animal should in order to get what it wants. You don't have to blame a lion for doing what a lion does, right? Without God canceling people, you can do that and not feel bad about it. Without God, people do not deserve grace or forgiveness. Without God, it is actually right and wrong that is relative and changes depending on the person that very day. However, in the Christian worldview, it is true to who we are. If Christianity is true, then we were made in the image of God and we have value and worth and dignity. We are more responsible for our actions than animals are. We should stick to our word, we should follow laws, and we should respect our fellow man. We see in the Bible some very specific instructions on how we should live. Romans 12, 9 through 13 says, "Don't just pretend to love others. Really love them. Hate what is wrong. Hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. Never be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. Rejoice in our confident hope. Be patient in trouble and keep on praying. When God's people are in need, be ready to help them. Always be eager to practice hospitality. It goes on even more verses, but this is what Christianity is. And this is what it teaches that is right. There are tons of passages all over the Bible that tells us how that we should live, and all of it is grounded in God. A Christian worldview says that what is right and wrong comes from God and in his nature and in his character. If you don't notice, I have a bracelet that says WWJD. And the reason that I have this and the reason that the phrase is so popular is because it goes back to the question of what would Jesus do? As Christians, we know that what is right and wrong by looking at the example of Jesus, not to the example of celebrities or influences or people that don't follow God themselves. At the end of the day, this all boils down to authority. Who do we listen to for direction in your life? Who gets the final say in how you live and how you act? Who gets the worship of our deepest love? If you're a Christian, that answer should be God. If you're not a Christian, unfortunately, you're going to find that in something else. And it would be subjective to however you're choosing to live that day. What you love and give authority to gets to control your life. Don't let it be stuff or influencers or even yourself. Let it be God who made you, knows you, and loves you. The Christian worldview makes the most sense and answers these important questions the best because of this. I want to challenge you to examine what you are currently believing and the things that you can be sure that you are believing don't make any sense. For the Christian in the room, let this strengthen you and build your confidence in what you believe. For the person in the room who is curious about Christianity, let this help you in your journey by seeing that being a Christian doesn't mean throwing out your minds, but it actually means that you're using it to the fullest. Here's our bottom line today, students. Being a Christian just makes sense. Thank you. Love you guys.